إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهد الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. Indeed, all praise and thanks are due to Allah, the one and only. We seek His help and we seek His forgiveness. We seek refuge in Allah from the evil of our own souls and from our own bad deeds. Whomsoever Allah guides will never be led astray, and whomsoever Allah leaves astray, no one can guide. I bear witness that there is no deity worthy of worship but Allah, and I bear witness that Muhammad ibn Abdullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam is the final messenger of Allah. Subhanallah, 2 weeks have passed by in this blessed month of Ramadan, and it is time for us to ask, have we achieved, have we attained the very objective of Ramadan? The Prophet ﷺ said that some people in the month of Ramadan, all they gain is thirst and hunger. Some people, all they gain in the month of Ramadan is thirst and hunger. And it is time for us to ask, after these 2 weeks have gone by, for us to reflect, are we among those people? Are we among those people who didn't achieve the very objective of Ramadan, to attain God consciousness, to attain taqwa? As Allah SWT says in the Quran, that the Ramadan has been prescribed upon you, as it was prescribed upon those before you, لَعَلَّكُمْ تَتَّقُونَ, so that you can gain God consciousness, so that you can increase yourself in God consciousness. If we can restrain ourselves from our basic necessity of drink and food, then surely we can restrain ourselves from lying, from lowering our gaze, from other sins, minor and major, that we commit. If our very basic essence in this heat, if we can hold ourselves from drinking water, and we can hold ourselves from drinking or eating food, then surely we can hold ourselves from committing sins. This is what the objective of Ramadan was. The very essence of Ramadan. Not that we starve ourselves, not that we thirst ourselves, but to attain a higher level of consciousness that will carry us throughout the year, inshallah. This leads us into the point of character, of what it means to have a good character. Because the month of Ramadan is a boot camp for Muslims to perfect their character, to enhance their character, to beautify their character. The Prophet ﷺ said, أَقْرَبُكُم مِّنِّي مَجْلِسًا يَوْمَ الْقِيَامَةِ أَحَاسِنُكُمْ أَخْلَاقًا. That the best of you, or the ones who will be closest to me on the Day of Judgment, those of you who will be sitting closest to me on the Day of Judgment will be those who have the best of character, those who have the best of akhlaq. In another hadith, the Prophet ﷺ said, إِنَّمَا بَعِثْتُ لِأُتَمِّمَ مَكَارِمَ الْأَخْلَاقِ, that I have been sent. The Prophet ﷺ said, I have been sent to perfect good character. He summarized his entire prophethood in this very specific point, that his messengership, his prophethood, was a means to perfect mankind's character, was a means for us to have a model, a role model, an example of someone to emulate, of someone to follow, of someone to replicate in our daily actions, of someone to copy and to look as a role model for our character. And this month of Ramadan is the best time for us to evaluate our character, and the best time for us to set goals that we want to accomplish, and for us to reflect, are we only starving and thirsting ourselves, or are we achieving the objective of Ramadan and gaining a higher consciousness, gaining a higher level of taqwa? In another hadith, the Prophet ﷺ said, the most complete of believers in Iman, the most complete of believers in Iman are those who are best in character. So time and time again you see this essence, you see this importance of character in Islam among the Prophet ﷺ's sayings and his teachings. The scholars say that the best Muslims in history were known for their character. You look at the Sahaba, the companions of the Prophet, they were recognized for their character. You look at the Tabi'een, the ones who came after the Sahaba. You look at the Prophets themselves, they were known for their good character. They shone, the light of their character shined, or shone and delivered the message of Islam, the way they interacted with people. Salah ad-Din was known for his good character, even amongst his enemies. You look in the books of Europe, you look in history books, and you'll read about the good character, the virtues of Salah ad-Din, the one who freed Palestine. And even amongst his enemies, it was known for his good character. So what is akhlaq? What is good character? How can we come to define what character is, and how can we come to obtain those qualities that the Prophet ﷺ taught us? Scholars say that there are three aspects of a Muslim. There are three things that define a Muslim. Number one is his iman, his faith. And we know the iman, we know the faith, we know the 6 articles of faith. Number two is worship, ibadah. Because when you have faith within yourself, it should manifest itself in worship. If you believe in Allah, you will worship Him. It's simple. And number three is good character. And scholars say that if you have iman and you have worship, then it should manifest itself in good character. It should manifest itself in good character. Scholars say we have a problem in society today where we have two opposite extremes. In one extreme, you have a group of people who have excellent worship. They have excellent worship. But when they deal with people, they're very rude. When they deal with people, they're very judgmental. When they deal with people, they don't have good character. People run away from them, not towards them. People run away from Islam because of their character. They're rude, they're unkind, they're incompassionate, they're inconsiderate. This is one extreme. And on the other extreme, you have people who are very kind, but have no relationship with Allah. Which is better? The scholars say trying to answer this question is like trying to answer the question, which eye should I poke out, your right or your left? Obviously neither. We need to have a balance of both. We need to be those who have excellent character, that people see Islam through our interactions. People see the virtues of Islam, the virtues of the Prophet ﷺ through our character, and those who have an excellent relationship with Allah. Those who stand in the night and worship Allah. Those who fast in Ramadan and outside of Ramadan. Those who excel in their worship. We need both. We cannot sacrifice one for the other. Sadly, nowadays, people are more concerned with their reputation rather than their character. And reputation is who you seem to be the people. It's not who you really are. It's who people think you are. And unfortunately, people are more concerned about their reputation than they are about perfecting their character. Even if it means that you do the right thing, but the people do not like it. We understand this concept from the following incident that took place during the life of the Prophet ﷺ. Please move forward. So there's more space for the brothers coming. Please move forward. There are many people coming, so inshallah you'll make more space for it. We understand this concept of the importance of character from the following incident that took place during the life of the Prophet ﷺ. The Sahaba asked about two women in Medina. The Sahaba came to the Prophet ﷺ and they asked about two women. One of the women, she used to pray often. She used to excel in her worship, beyond just the mandatory, beyond just the fara'id. She used to go above and beyond. But she was very rude to her neighbors. And the Sahaba came and asked the Prophet, the companions of the Prophet, peace be upon him, they came to the Prophet and they asked him about her. And the Prophet ﷺ said, if she continues on this path of rudeness to her neighbors, her destination will be hellfire. And then they asked about another woman who fulfilled her fara'id. She fulfilled her obligations to Allah. She did what was required by her, but she was very kind to her neighbors. She was very excellent and compassionate to her neighbors. And the Prophet ﷺ said about this woman, if she continues on this path, her destination will be paradise. SubhanAllah, you learn from this the importance of akhlaq. Lack of good character can erase your good deeds. Lack of good character can do away with all the worship that you do. Because in the end of the day, if you are not merciful to the creation of Allah, why do you expect Allah to be merciful to you? In the end of the day, if you're not compassionate to the creation of Allah, if you are not considerate to the creation of Allah, why would you expect Allah to be considerate and compassionate to you? So what does this teach us? This teaches us that the 5 pillars of Islam are a means, not an end. Let me explain what I mean. The 5 pillars of Islam are a goal. They're meant to allow us to achieve a higher goal. They're a means to allow us to achieve a higher goal. Prayer is a means for us to purify our hearts. As the Prophet ﷺ said, مَنْ لَمْ تَنْهَهُ صَلَاتَهُ عَنِ الْفَحْشَاءِ وَالْمُنْكَرِ فَلَا صَلَاةَ لَهُ. The one whose prayer does not inhibit him, does not stop him from committing sins, it is as if he has no prayer. SubhanAllah, this is the hadith of the Prophet. He said that the one whose prayer, like he prays regularly, does not stop him from committing bad sins, it is as if he has no prayer. So prayer is a means for us to purify our hearts. Zakat is a means for us to purify our wealth. Fasting during the month of Ramadan is a means for us to attain taqwa. It is not so we starve and we go on thirst all day. It is for us to achieve a higher goal. Hajj is a means for us to understand the unity of Islam, the unity of humanity, that no color has any superiority over any other color, and no language has any other superiority over any other language. Hajj is a means for us to unite, is a means for us to understand that concept of ridding ourselves of arrogance. So faith should manifest itself in worship, and worship should manifest itself in good character. It should manifest itself in good character. And we know this, and we understand this, and I would like to share with you all, if there's anything you take from this khutbah, it's the following. What Sheikh Yasir Fazagah has termed the 6 C's of character. They're called the 6 C's of character. What I mean by C is the letter C. They just use that he organized them in this fashion, so it's easier for us to memorize. They have different terms in Arabic and other languages. Number 1, conscience. Number 1 character that a Muslim should have is conscience. That in Arabic, dhamir, that someone has the ability to tell right from wrong. This is something that a Muslim should know. He should know, have the ability, and this is something that's in the fitrah. The Prophet ﷺ told us that it is within human beings' ability to tell right from wrong. This is our moral compass. One of the Sahabi, he came to the Prophet ﷺ and he asked him, what is righteousness and what is sin? What is righteousness and what is sin? What is good and what is bad? What is evil? What is inherently good and what is inherently evil? How do we tell? How can we tell? And the Prophet ﷺ replied and he said, the righteousness is to have good character. And sin is to have that feeling in your heart that pricks your conscience and tells you what you did is wrong. And you do not want people to know about it. You want to hide it from people. This is one of the ways in which we can develop our moral compass. To listen to our fitrah and to listen to our understanding of what is good and evil. But beware, your moral compass can get destroyed. Your moral compass, if you do not go through the process of tazkiyah, of self-purification, and you do not go through the process of tarbiyah, of developing yourself and your soul, your moral compass can stop working. We see in society when you engage in sin after sin after sin, you no longer feel that it's a sin. Your moral compass stops working. And we learn this, subhanAllah, from the verse of the Quran in which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَلَا تَكُونُوا كَالَّذِينَ نَسُوا اللَّهَ فَأَنْسَاهُمْ أَنفُسَهُمْ أُولَٰئِكَ هُمُ الْفَاسِقُونَ. Be not like those who forgot Allah, and as a result, Allah caused them to forget themselves. They forgot Allah, and as a result, Allah caused them to forget themselves. They lost it. They lost their mind. They no longer, when they sin, they don't know that they're sinning because they forgot Allah and they did not guard they didn't guard His consciousness within themselves. So number 1 is conscience, to have this moral compass. Number 2, compassion. As I said, these are the 6 C's of character. Number 2 is compassion, rahmah. The ability to feel for others. The ability to feel for those who do not even feel for you. Because it is not compassion to be nice to those who are nice to you. That's called common sense. It is compassion to be nice to those who are not nice to you. It is compassion to be nice to those who do not even deserve it. And we have examples of this from the life of the Prophet. And we have examples from this from the best of Muslims throughout history. That they were nice to those who were not nice to them. And that shone in their character. That character, that quality, spread the word of Islam. We have the example of the Prophet ﷺ in the year of sorrow, when his wife Khadija, may Allah be pleased with her, died. When his uncle Abu Talib died. The Prophet ﷺ, he left the city of Mecca and he went to the city of Ta'if to ask the people of Ta'if, will you give the Muslims refuge in your city? Will you take in the Muslims? Will you accept me as a messenger? And we know the story in which the leaders of Ta'if instructed their children to stone the Prophet out. And the Prophet is leaving the city. The Prophet is leaving the city walking in blood. The Prophet's feet are dripping in blood because of the children that were told by their leaders to stone the Prophet ﷺ out. Peace and blessings be upon him. And then the angel comes to him and tells him, Ya Rasulullah, O Messenger of Allah, would you like that I destroy this city? Would you like that I send the angel of the mountain to destroy this city? What did the Prophet ﷺ say? He said, no, perhaps someone from their children will accept Islam. And subhanAllah, within his own lifetime, the city of Ta'if accepted Islam. This is the compassion of the Prophet. That even when he is being stoned out of the city, he has compassion to his people. He has compassion to those that he's been sent to deliver the message. As messengers of the messenger, as we are the messengers of the messenger. Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. Do we have such compassion? Do we exhibit such compassion? Do we judge and ridicule people, or do we have compassion to want for them guidance just like we want it for ourselves? Do we want guidance for our society just like we want it for ourselves? Do we want Jannah, heaven for our paradise, for our society just like we want it for ourselves? If we do, what do we do about it? Are we compassionate to them? That is the question. And another example from Abdullah ibn Umar, one of the great companions. He goes to the market to buy some merchandise. And he goes to the market and when he's ready to make the final purchase, he puts his hand in his pocket and he finds out someone stole his money. He doesn't have the money anymore. So he tells the merchant, the cashier, the merchant, that someone stole my money, I don't have money. And Abdullah ibn Umar, he's one of the great scholars among the Sahaba. He's well known. So the merchant raises his hands and he says, Ya Allah, whoever stole the money from Abdullah ibn Umar, destroy him. Destroy him. And Abdullah ibn Umar, he catches this opportunity to express his compassion. And he says, he raises his hands and he wants to make a dua out loud that the people hear to undo what this man did. So he says, Allahumma in kana muhtajan fabarik lahu fima akhad. Oh Allah, if this man was in need of what he took from me, then bless him in what he took from me. وَإِن كَانَ صَارِقًا فَجْعَلُ آخِرَ ذُنُوبِهِ. And if this is a professional thief, then make this the last of his sins. Then make this act that he did against me the last of his sins. SubhanAllah, this is the compassion of the Sahaba. This is the compassion of the companions of the Prophet ﷺ who achieved their, or received their tarbiyah, who received their development process through the Prophet ﷺ. It is easy, my brothers and sisters, to be kind to those who are kind to us. Sometimes we're not even kind to those who are kind to us. Sometimes we don't even reciprocate that compassion among our own community, among ourselves. It is easy to do that, relatively speaking. But it is very difficult. It takes a lot of courage. It takes a lot of moral strength. And it takes a lot of compassion, like the Prophet ﷺ had, to be compassionate to those who are not compassionate to you. And wallahi, that is one of the best forms of da'wah. To be compassionate to those who are not compassionate to you. Salahuddin was known for his compassion. Salahuddin was in an era in which the Muslims were fighting the Crusaders. And even he was known for his compassion in a time of war. But what about us? Those who are compassionate in this world, Allah will be compassionate with them in the akhirah. And which of us can say we do not need the compassion of Allah? Which kind of us can say we do not need the rahmah of Allah? That's number two. So number one was conscience. Number two is compassion. We're going over the 6 C's of character to make them easy for you to memorize. Number one is compassion. Number one is conscience. Number two is compassion. And number three is consideration. To be mindful of others before you speak. Don't be blind. Don't be blind. Many times we do things without thinking. We say things without thinking. It means you think before you act. It means you think before you speak. And you guard your tongue. You hold your tongue from saying things that will hurt people's feelings, or will cause them to have ill feelings towards you, or that will spread grudges and ill feelings among yourselves in the community and among others. We have a beautiful example of this from the Prophet ﷺ himself. And this is one of my favorite stories. One of the Sahabi, one of the companions, he came to the Prophet and he wanted to share with the Prophet a plate full of grapes. And so he's rushing to the Prophet with excitement. He wants to share these grapes with the Prophet. So he rips them off the vine, or the plate of grapes, and he puts them in the Prophet's mouth as a brotherly gesture. And the Prophet smiles and he accepts them and he eats them. 1, after 2, after 3. So the companion is feeding the Prophet. So what a blessed opportunity. And the Prophet ﷺ smiles and he accepts them and he eats them. And then finally he takes a grape, he puts it in his mouth, he bites it and he spits it out. And he says, Ya Rasulullah, were these grapes that I gave you as sour as the ones that I just ate? And the Prophet smiled and he said, yes, they were pretty sour. And he said, why did you say anything? And the Prophet ﷺ replies and he says, I didn't want to spoil the joy I saw on your face. I didn't want to become mad or angry. I didn't want to spoil the joy and happiness I saw in your face from sharing these with you. SubhanAllah. This is called consideration. Did the Prophet need to do this? No, of course not. But he was considerate of the feelings of his companions. He was considerate of the feelings of others around him. He had consideration. He thought before he acted. He thought before he spoke. Is this something that we do ourselves? A Muslim is one who is safe from the hands and the tongue of another Muslim. Are we each other safe from each other's hands and tongue, meaning our speech? That's why the Prophet ﷺ said that if there are 3 of you sitting together, then 2 of them should not speak in another language so as the third, or speak to one another so that the third thinks that he's gossiping about them, or that the third thinks that they're gossiping about him. SubhanAllah, this is to be considerate. And there's so many other examples we could have. So this is a reminder for me and for you, and ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to accept from us our Ramadan, and help us to gain consciousness, and help us to gain compassion, help us to gain consideration. أقول قولي هذا استغفر لي ولكم استغفروه إنه غفور رحيم. اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آل محمد كما صليت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد. اللهم بارك على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما باركت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم في العالمين إنك حميد مجيد. So we're discussing the 6 C's of character, what it means to have good akhlaq. And we're learning from the Prophet ﷺ different stories and examples from his life and the life of the Sahaba, those he taught, those he gave tarbiyah, those he developed. What did the Prophet leave? He did not leave buildings, he did not leave institutions, he did not leave grand amusements like pyramids or anything. He left the best generation that ever lived. He left for us a role model, an example. The best generation that ever lived, he left for us people to model ourselves and model our character after. So some of the characters that we're discussing, number one, we discussed conscience, to have a moral compass. Number two, we discussed compassion, to have rahmah, to be compassionate to society, to be compassionate to the creation of Allah so that we can receive the compassion of Allah. Number three, consideration, to be considerate of others, to think before we speak, to think before we act. And number four, courage. Number four is courage. To stand up for what is right, even if it is inconvenient. To stand up for what is right, even if it is inconvenient to do so. Have the courage to do what is right all the time, not just some of the time. Even if that negatively affects our reputation. Because we talked about in the beginning, we shouldn't care about our reputation as much as we should care about our character. Because reputation is something that anyone can destroy. People can lie about your reputation and destroy your reputation. But Allah knows the truth. Allah knows the truth. Allah knows that you did or did not do something. So your reputation among the people should not be something that bothers you or concerns you. Your character, who you really are. Who you really are in the dark. Who you really are by yourself. Who you really are when no one is watching you. Of course, none of the people are watching you. That's what we should be concerned about. Imagine being an honest person living in a society or an environment of everyone's just cheating, everyone's lying. People will ask you, what good does your honesty do for you? What good does your honesty bring you? People will say, you're being honest. All that's brought to you is harm. But the one who is a Muslim, the one who has strong iman, knows that their reward is with Allah. They know that Allah knows the right and what they do and what they do not do. They know that no matter what the people say about them, no matter what the people ridicule them for, their reward is with Allah, and Allah will reward them justly. So even if they gain some harm in this dunya, they know that they will be repaid in the akhirah. Even if they gain some harm in this dunya, whether it be monetarily, because they engaged in halal and good economic practices, or any other means, if they didn't cheat, if they didn't lie, if they did everything honestly and justly, and they were harmed in this dunya, they know that Allah will reward them. They know that Allah will recompense them much further than they can get in this dunya. This is the character that we should have. And we know this from one of the stories, and the beautiful example of a story during the time of Umar bin Khattab. May Allah be pleased with him. One time Umar bin Khattab was walking down the street, and he overheard the conversation between a mother and her daughter. This is a famous story in the books of history, in the books of the lives of the Sahaba. And Umar, he was walking down the street during his khilafah while he was caliph, and he overheard the conversation between a woman and a mother and her daughter. And he overhears them saying, and the woman is saying, telling her daughter, let's just mix, they were merchants, they used to sell milk in the market. So the mother is telling the daughter, let's just mix the water with the milk, so we can have more. And the daughter says, my mother, don't you know that Umar bin Khattab, Amir al-Mu'mineen, our leader of the believers, our Amir, he said not to do this. He's banned this practice. This is illegal in our society to do this. To mix water and milk to sell it in society, to just to have more. And the mother says, who cares? Umar can't see us. Just don't fret about it. Don't make it such a big deal. How many times this happened to us in society? Don't make such a big deal, brother. I mean, you're out with your friends and they say, don't make such a big deal. Don't be so caught up on following everything to the line. Don't be so like such a haram police. How many times this happened to us among the youngsters? I'm sure you can relate to this. So the mother says to the daughter, don't worry about it. Umar can't see us. So the daughter replies, she says, but don't you know that the Rabb of Umar can see us? The daughter had the courage to say this to her mother. This is what courage means. To speak up for what is right, even if it is inconvenient. So the daughter says, but don't you know that the Rabb of Umar, the Lord of Umar can see us? And Umar, he hears this. And he runs home and he tells his son, I found a righteous wife. And so one of his sons marries her. And she, subhanAllah, that daughter she ends up becoming the great-grandmother of Umar ibn Abdul Aziz, the 5th rightly guided Khalifa that scholars have recognized. SubhanAllah, Allah rewarded her, that daughter, for standing up for what was right, for having the courage to speak up to her mother for what was right, by making her a mother of one of the rightly guided Khalifas. Making her a mother of a mujaddideen, of a reformer, of a great reviver of Islam. SubhanAllah. We know that as Muslims, even if some harm comes to us in this dunya, from standing for what is right, for speaking what is right, Allah will recompense us, either in this dunya or in the akhirah, or maybe in both. Allahu A'lam. So number 4 was courage. Number 5 is control. And this month of Ramadan is all about control. To have the ability to control our nafs, to have the ability to control our desires, to have the ability to control our eyes and our tongue and what we speak and what we say, to have the ability to control our hands, to have the ability. A Muslim is all about control. A Muslim is all about discipline. It takes discipline to pray 5 times a day. It takes discipline to wake up for Fajr in the cold weather of winter, and even in the long days of summer. It takes discipline to fast 30 days of the month. A Muslim should be known for their discipline. A Muslim should be known for their control, to have the ability to have control. And the Prophet ﷺ asked, who is the strong one? And the Sahaba replied, the one who can wrestle the other man down. The Prophet said, no. The Prophet ﷺ said, the strong one is not the one who can wrestle another man down. The strong one is the one who in a moment of rage, in a moment of great anger, even if it's justified, can control himself, can control his anger, can swallow that anger. That is real strength. That is real control. It is the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ, if you're angry and you're standing, to sit down. And if you're sitting and you become angry, to lie down. To remove yourself from the environment in which anger has provoked you, and to swallow that anger. And to swallow it. What a great reward that is, to swallow that anger. And the Prophet ﷺ said, a beautiful hadith, he who gives up disputing, he who gives up arguing, while even though he knows he is right, Allah will build for him a palace in Jannah. Allah will build for him a great high rank in paradise. For the one who gives up arguing and disputing, even though he knows he's right. SubhanAllah. This teaches us to have control. And this month is all about control. So that was number 5, control. And number 6, confidence. And this is something I really want to speak to the youth about especially. To have confidence. To know that you are on the truth. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told us in the Quran, كُنْتُمْ خَيْرَ أُمَّةٍ أُخْرِجَتْ لِلنَّاسِ, that you are the best nation produced for mankind. That you are the best nation in all of history produced for mankind. To go to mankind, to deliver the message to mankind, to spread the message of Islam, to tell humanity about Islam, as messengers of the messenger, to deliver this message, to carry this banner, to have confidence in that. And until we can have confidence, we cannot expect our youth, or even our elders for that matter, to do this, to carry this responsibility on their shoulders, unless they have confidence. Unless they're not scared about getting in trouble, or unless they're not scared about arguing with people about my deen, or not even telling them about my deen, or just hiding my deen, for example. You have every right, for example, I'm talking to the youth, to pray in your workplace, in your school, and that's a great form of da'wah. You have every right to do this. It's our right as American citizens to do this. We have every right, and we should not shy away from it. We should not belittle ourselves and think we're less than we really are. To know our true worth, if you knew the true worth of a Muslim and the responsibility on our shoulders, you would cry a lot and you would laugh a little. Like, you would understand that the responsibility that we have to bear as messengers of the messenger is great. And unless we have confidence in that message, we cannot deliver this. And that's why it's so important for us to have strong individuals, strong companions to help us build that confidence. One of my favorite stories from the life of Umar ibn Khattab, and Allah be pleased with him, is the following. In one of the homes of Medina, Umar ibn Khattab, may Allah be pleased with him, is sitting with his group of companions. And he asked the companions, make a wish. What is your dearest wish? What do you want the most? And one of the companions replies, I wish that this house that we're sitting in was full of gold and silver, so that I could donate all of this for fi sabilillah. And Umar, he doesn't respond to this answer. He says, okay. And he says the question again, what is your dearest wish? What do you guys want the most? He's talking to the companions that are sitting with him during his lifetime, after the death of the Prophet ﷺ. And another Sahabi says, I wish that this house that we're sitting in was full of jewels and rubies. This is a time of great expansion of Islam. The Muslim had seen the wonders of Persia and other lands. So the Sahabi says, I wish that this house was full of jewels and rubies, so that I could donate it all fi sabilillah. They're not joking. They're not kidding. They're serious. They really do sincerely mean what they say. If they had a home full of it, they would give all of it. May Allah be pleased with the companions. And again, Umar, he doesn't give much response to this. He kind of ignores it. And they think it's such a great wish. And then he asks the question a third time. He says, what is your greatest wish? What do you want the most? And again, the Sahaba, they say, they don't understand what to say. They say, Amir al-Mu'mineen, O leader of the believers, what do you mean? Explain to us. We don't understand the question. He replies and he says, I wish that this house was full of men. I wish that this house was full of men.